paradigm. What is at the root of our beliefs? What makes us grow? Why do we fail? I've been sitting with this question for a long time. How do you really know what someone believes? Not just what they say, but what's underneath it. What actually shapes the way they move through the world? I've found that most people's answers to big questions, whether about God, truth, or what makes life worth living, aren't just intellectual positions. They're the shape of their fears, their longings, the stories they've learned to tell themselves so they can keep going. So when I talk to someone about these things, I try not to argue. I try to listen for what's in the spaces between their words. What are they protecting when they tell me what they believe? What are they hiding behind the words they use, especially those words that sound so certain? Because I think that's where the real answers are. Usually I'll start by asking them about their beliefs, especially if they believe in something bigger than themselves. Why do you believe? What does it give you? What would it mean if it wasn't there? I'm not trying to poke holes or prove anything wrong. I'm trying to find the shape of the problems they're actually wrestling with. Because I've seen the same patterns over and over again, these three issues that we all seem to circle around, no matter how different we are on the surface. Nihilism, the fear that nothing matters, that there's no meaning beyond what we make. Epistemic solipsism, the fear that we can't really know anything outside our own heads. Pessimism, the fear that things won't get better, that hope itself is a lie. I've come to call these the vicious triad. They're not just ideas, they're places in us where the ground doesn't feel solid. When I'm talking to someone, I don't tell them this right away. I let them tell me how they see the world. I listen to how they explain it, what words they reach for, what arguments they come back to over and over again. And I watch for where those arguments stop being about logic and start being about the fear of falling into those three voids. Then, once we're there, I stop trying to debate. I switch from talking about ideas to sharing how I've felt these same fears myself, how I've wrestled with them, and how I keep finding my own way through. I don't pretend I have the final answers. But I do think there's something about saying out loud, these aren't just intellectual puzzles. These are the cracks we all carry. And there's no shortcut to fixing them. We have to live it, work it out in the world, and find our own balance. That's where this begins, not with an argument to win, but with a conversation to be in, a conversation about how to live with the biggest questions, and maybe, just maybe, how to find something worth calling truth in the process. Meaning, purpose, value when the conversation turns to meaning. I can almost feel the air change, because if there's one question that hits all of us at the core, it's this one. What if there's no bigger purpose? What if nothing really matters? I see it in the way people's eyes shift, like they're looking into an open pit they'd rather not acknowledge. It's the quiet fear behind so many of our certainties. If there's no God, no cosmic story, no final reason for it all, then what's the point of trying at all? And I get it. I've stood at that same ledge myself. I've felt how heavy the idea of nihilism can be, like a cold wind that seeps into your bones, telling you that your struggles, your dreams, your small victories, none of it really matters. In the end, but here's what I've come to see. The problem with nihilism isn't that it's wrong, it's that it's incomplete. It's the collapse that happens when meaning has been outsourced for too long, when we've let something outside ourselves carry the full weight of why we're here. When that something crumbles, whether it's God, a system, or a story we've outgrown, we're left with this gaping hole. And the instinct is to say, if that's gone, there must be nothing left. But the truth I've found is more complicated, more alive than that. I think meaning isn't something that exists out there waiting for us to find it. It's something we build from the inside out. It's the way we shape our experiences, the way we decide what matters enough to keep coming back to, even when the world says it's all dust and noise. That doesn't mean the fear goes away. I still feel it, this undercurrent of doubt that asks, are you just making it up as you go? Is it all just a story to keep you from staring too long into the void? But I've learned that even if it is just a story, it's mine. And that's enough to make it real in the only way that counts. Real for me. Real in the way it pushes me to live, to try, to care. Because when I let go of the idea that meaning has to come from outside, I find a different kind of strength. I see that it's in the living itself, in the small choices, the daily acts of love and creation, the ways we touch each other's lives. So when I'm talking to someone about this, I don't try to argue them out of their fear of nihilism. I don't tell them meaning is guaranteed or that I've found the final answer. Instead, I say, this is what I've felt, and this is what I've found. Meaning isn't something you inherit, it's something you forge, and if you're willing to take that risk, to carry it yourself, you'll find that meaning can be more honest, more alive, and more resilient than any story you were handed as a child. That's not an easy thing to hear, and it's even harder to live, but it's the only way I've found that doesn't collapse into the cold comfort of nothingness. It's a choice, A choice to stand in the face of the abyss and say, if nothing matters by default, then everything matters by decision. And that decision is yours. Always. Truth after meaning. The next crack I see is the question of truth, whether we can ever really know anything at all. This one's quieter, but I can feel it in the hesitations people have when they talk about what they believe. It's this creeping sense that maybe everything we think we know is just a mirror, our mind reflecting itself back at us, with no real outside to test it against. When I'm talking to someone and I see this fear start to show, I try to bring it out gently. I'll ask them, what if everything you believe, everything you experience, is just you, no world outside your own head? Because that's the heart of epistemic solipsism, the idea that no matter how much we want to believe in an external truth, we can never truly step outside our own perception. We're trapped in a hall of mirrors, trying to find something solid to hold on to. I've spent long nights with that thought myself. It's a hard thing to face, like standing in a room with no doors or windows, just the echo of your own voice. And it's tempting to either dismiss it outright or get lost in it completely, because either way, at least you don't have to wrestle with the uncertainty anymore. But here's what I've learned. You can't think your way out of it. You can't logic your way to an absolute truth that sits outside of your own experience, because everything you use to test that truth is already inside you. So what do? For me, I had to let go of the idea that truth is a static thing, a final answer you can lock in and be done with. Instead, I started thinking of truth as something more fluid, more relational, not a destination but a milestone, a working hypothesis that earns its place by how well it fits the world I can touch, feel, and see. I think of it like this. Truth isn't a thing, it's a pattern. It's the way experiences line up, the way they cohere and push back against each other. It's something that can be tested, not by stepping outside myself, but by seeing what happens when I move through the world with it. Does it help me navigate? Does it open up possibilities instead of closing them down? Does it keep me honest with myself and with others? When I'm talking to someone about this, I don't tell them I've found the final truth. I tell them I've found a way of living with the uncertainty. I say, it's not about having a perfect view of the world. It's about building a map that works for you, one you're willing to update as you go, because that's what I've seen over and over again. The people who get stuck are the ones who can't bear the idea that truth is contextual, that it's shaped by the dance between what's inside us and what's out there. They want it to be a thing they can point to, unchanging, eternal. But I think that's just another way of clinging to something external, another refusal to take ownership of the journey. So I share my own practice, how I keep testing what I believe against the friction of the world, how I stay open to the idea that even what feels most certain might still shift if I let myself really see it, and how that openness isn't a weakness. It's the only way I know to stay honest, to keep growing, because if I've learned anything, it's this. The only absolute I trust is the process itself, the willingness to question, to test, to change when the world shows me something new. And that's what I try to offer to the people I talk to, not an escape from the fear of solipsism, but a way to live with it, to let it be the spark that keeps us searching, not the trap that keeps us stuck. Optimism and pessimism. This last part is always the hardest, because when I ask someone how they see the world, whether they're an optimist, a pessimist, or what they like to call a realist, I know that I'm not just asking them for a label. I'm asking them how they live with the tension of the world's uncertainties. And I've learned that realist isn't really a position at all. It's a shield, a way to feel rational and safe, a way to avoid the vulnerability of saying, I'm scared to hope too much, or I can't bear the weight of disappointment again. I get that. For a long time, I told myself that being cautious was the same as being honest, that expecting the worst was just me being prepared. But what I've found is that pessimism doesn't protect you. It just narrows the scope of what you're willing to see. And optimism, real optimism, not the naive kind that pretends everything is fine, isn't about ignoring the bad. It's about shifting the lens so that the bad isn't the only thing in the frame. When I talk to someone about this, I let them talk. I don't push them to define themselves right away, because I know that most people have never been asked to look at their own tilt that closely. I just listen to the shape of their fears, the way they talk about what's possible and what's likely. I listen for how they weight the good against the bad, whether they even see the good at all. Then I share what I've learned, that optimism isn't a belief, it's a practice. It's not about denying that life is hard, that there's pain and loss and things we can't control. It's about choosing every day to notice the small good things, to let them count, even if they're fleeting. I tell them how, since I've started doing that, I feel like the world has changed. Not because it's actually easier or brighter, but because I'm not so clenched up waiting for the next bad thing to knock me down. I can see that the small joys were always there, I just never let them in. And I tell them the hardest part, I don't have a solution for this. There's no logical fix that will make you an optimist if you're used to seeing the world as a place that disappoints you. You have to live it, you have to find the small things and let them matter. You have to be willing to believe just a little that the next good thing is coming. I'm honest about the frustration in that, because my mind is so wired for logic, and this doesn't play by those rules. It's not a puzzle to solve, it's a perspective to build, brick by brick, moment by moment. And I know that if someone can do that, if they can let the small good things matter, then even the biggest fears start to feel a little smaller. Even the worst days don't feel quite so final. That's why I always end here, because when I look at all these pieces, meaning, truth, and optimism, I see that if we can keep them alive in ourselves, if we can keep moving forward even in the face of uncertainty, then we're doing the best we can. And that's enough, I tell them. It doesn't matter whether you're a theist or an atheist, whether you're sure of your answers or still searching. What matters is whether you're willing to carry these questions honestly, to let them shape you, and to find your own way to keep going. That's what I'm trying to do, and I think, in the end, that's what makes the difference. Motive when I step back and look at it all, the meaning we chase, the truths we defend, the optimism we struggle to hold, I see how they're woven together, like roots of the same ancient tree. I call them the vicious triad, because when we can't hold these three gently, they twist into something that doesn't just trap us, it shapes how we see the world itself. They become the skeleton of every worldview that shuts us down, keeps us small, or turns us against each other. I see it everywhere. In the way people cling to systems that promise them absolute answers, because the idea of not knowing is too much to bear. In the way we let fear of disappointment make us suspicious, cynical, or hard-edged. Like armor we forget how to take off. In the way we reach for meaning like it's medicine, even if the dose poisons us, just so we don't have to feel the emptiness underneath. And I know this because I've lived it. I've watched how these three, meaninglessness, uncertainty, and pessimism, can creep into every corner of your life if you let them. How they can turn a hopeful heart into a fortress. How they can make you mistake survival for living. But here's what I've come to believe. These aren't just ideas to be solved. They're experiences to be felt, seen, and ultimately, if we're brave enough, transformed. They're the places where we're most vulnerable. And that's exactly why they're also the places where we're most alive. Because if we can learn to stand in that uncertainty and still choose to make meaning, to keep seeking truth, to find something to hope for, then we're not just surviving, we're growing. When I talk to someone about all this, I'm not trying to convince them of anything. I'm inviting them into the same garden I've been tending in myself. A garden of questions, of half-answers, of daily decisions to keep caring and keep creating. Even when it feels like the world is indifferent, I tell them, this is a hard journey. There's no final destination, no single answer that will tie it all up. But if you can see the cracks in yourself as invitations instead of failures, if you can treat these fears not as enemies but as companions, then you're already doing the work, because that's what this is really about. Not fixing people, not fixing yourself, but learning to carry the weight of these questions with grace, and letting that practice change how you live. Letting it soften you instead of hardening you. Letting it open you up instead of shutting you down. And I feel that if we can do that, then the world itself starts to shift. We become less easy to manipulate, less likely to cling to rigid ideologies that promise false safety. We become more real, more present, more able to see each other clearly. That's the real purpose of this work, why I write these words, why I share these thoughts. It's not to hand anyone the final answers, but to open a door, to say this is how I see it, this is how I live it. And if you see yourself in these words, then maybe this garden was always yours too. So take what you find here, carry it, question it, let it grow into something of your own. That's the gift I want to offer. Because even if the vicious triad never fully disappears, I think it's possible to live with them in a way that's honest, human, and, above all, alive. And that's enough. Reflection. I want to speak to the kind of atheist I was. The kind that felt it was necessary to confront every religious or supernatural claim head-on. The kind that thought, if you could just show people the worst parts of their scriptures, the contradictions, the failures, the broken logic, it would be enough to make them see. And I won't say those challenges were wrong, but what I've seen, over and over, is that the people I'm debating rarely ever see those interpretations the way I do. It's not how they read those verses, it's not what they value, and no matter how vile the text might seem to me, it almost never seems to shake them. I've come to think that's because no one really believes in something purely because of logic, or because a book told them to. They believe because of what it feels like to them, how it fits their life, how it resonates with who they already are. And when I'd stand there, certain that I'd expose the final flaw, I'd find at the end of the debate that nothing had really changed. They still believed what they believed, and I had to admit to myself that it felt irrational. All that effort, all that energy, and for what? I'd tell myself they were the ones refusing to see, but if I was honest, I had to ask, was I the one being irrational? Because if I really look at what matters to me, it's not whether someone believes in a God. I don't care about that in itself. What I care about is whether they're good for themselves and the people around them. And no matter how many times I exposed the broken logic, how many times I showed the worst parts of their text, it almost never changed that. So I had to wonder if I'd been fighting the symptom and ignoring the illness. Because that illness, this refusal to look deeper, to see where we're clinging to something that isn't serving us, that's not unique to religion. It can live in any worldview. And that was the hardest part to admit. It lives in me too. It lives in the people who share my worldview. So if I really care about the kind of change I say I want to see, then debating the surface wasn't enough. I had to go deeper. I don't feel the same rush from debate that I used to. That sense of intellectual domination, of feeling like I'd won something, doesn't feel worth it anymore. Because it doesn't serve the real goal. What I want isn't just to be right. It's to understand why people hold on so tightly, why they need those stories, and whether those stories are helping them or hurting them. It's to figure out what makes a person's worldview healthy or harmful, regardless of whether it's built on gods or the absence of them. That's a harder question. It's taken me out of the debates and into a different kind of search, one that doesn't rely only on logic, but on something else. I think of it as experiential rationality, the way our lived experiences shape what feels true, what we're willing to let go of, and what we're willing to fight for. It's not as clean as a perfect argument, but it's real, and when I work from that place, I don't feel the same futility I used to feel in debate. I feel like I'm finally moving in the direction of the change I actually care about. I won't pretend logic hasn't played a huge role in getting me here. It has. But I'd be lying if I said that dismantling someone else's worldview is what's going to get me where I want to go. I can't put that understanding back in the box. And honestly, there are already more than enough people in the world trying to win that fight. Let them keep fighting the tide. I'm choosing to navigate it, to learn from it, and to teach others how to do the same.